Gentlemen, we got DiJonai Carrington once again. I mean, like, she just can't get out of her own way at this point, huh? From raking people across the head, playing victim, staying white privilege, wearing a blonde wig at that, right? Going on your phone, breaking league policy, facing no punishment, showing black privilege in this league, going at the white girl once again on August 23rd. Although it was your funeral last night, Caitlin Clark led your funeral. I enjoyed watching your funeral last night. It was pretty fun. But DiJonai Carrington, once again, more stuff.
Welcome back to the Clark Hoop Nuxes. WNBA fans, a major controversy is now surrounding DJ Carrington after the latest collision involving Caitlin Clark. Carrington is facing intense scrutiny, and questions are being raised about what happened on the court and what could come next. With the situation getting more attention across the WNBA, fans are asking, could Carrington really face another suspension? And how will the league respond to the growing backlash? Was this simply a hard basketball play, or is there something bigger behind the controversy? Let's jump straight into today's video and break it all down. The WNBA may have believed that the drama would end with the final bell, but what transpired following Caitlin Clark's violent altercation with DJ Carrington only raised more concerns. Why was Clark still in pain? What specifically took place in the physical sequence, and why did the subsequent response send fans into a frenzy? One detail became more difficult to overlook as the video continued to circulate. Did the league have to react at last? What then took place? If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 67% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video.
Oh my goodness, DiJonai Carrington bookmarking this day just to get embarrassed by Caitlin Clark. The big bad wolf coming through, blowing houses down until she tried to blow down the Caitlin Clark brick house that was built by DiJonai. This lady was 3 for 11, 3 for 11, 0 for 3 from the three. A terrible performance. My goodness, tried to come out and take the show, right? Tried to create her moment, and guess what, DiJonai? Now your name is DiJonai Who Carrington. Who cares?
The Chicago Sky had just been defeated by the Indiana Fever. Another incredible performance had been delivered by Caitlin Clark, and under normal circumstances, that should have been the entire story. Instead, after the game, fans began sharing footage that shifted the conversation from the scoreboard to something far more awkward. A series of physical collisions and visible marks on Clark's arm had already turned a routine rivalry game into yet another intense WNBA controversy.
Let's play basketball. Like, why is always got to be something with the same repeated offenders, man? Like, it's always like the less talented out of the group, right? The less talented ones always focus on everything but basketball. The ones that's talented, you know what they focus on? Putting the ball in the hoop. The ones that's less focused, that's less talented, you know what they focus on? They focus on...
What happened next turned one basketball game into a much bigger debate about physical defense, involving DJ Carrington and the increasingly difficult task of discussing Caitlin Clark, without the entire internet showing up with 17 different conspiracy theories, a slow-motion replay, and a whistle.
All these things that have nothing to do with basketball, DiJonai. Why is it every time you're on my screen, it's never a basketball play? Why is it always drama? Why is it always you being ghetto? Why is it you showing the characteristics of a hood rat? Like, can I please just see some class? Can I see some talent? Please, anything. Show me something. Like, you guys know that meme of the kid with the stick saying, do something? That's how I feel about DJ.
First and foremost, it should be noted that this was not a made-up dispute created because Sunday night basketball enthusiasts had nothing else to do. The video was authentic. The noticeable marks on Clark's arm became a topic of conversation. Additionally, the physical interactions between Clark and Carrington were part of a game with a rich emotional history.
DiJonai, clout chaser, Carrington. Careful what you wish for, DiJonai. Be careful what you wish for. You're the one that circled 8/23 on the calendar. You're the one who tweeted out 8/23 as if it was some date we all should pay attention to. And people paid attention and saw you. Ooh, you had a bad game. Oh, but 8/23. Fair. Caitlin Clark makes 8 3-pointers. The Indiana Fever win by 23 points. Great foresight on your end, DiJonai.
The crucial point, though, is that obvious scratches by themselves do not establish intent. Furthermore, not all hard collisions are indicative of malicious behavior. Basketball is a physically demanding sport. Elbows fly, arms tangle, and occasionally a player leaves the court looking like she lost a fight with an especially hostile house cat. However, the contact was reported as unintentional. Because of this history, every new encounter between the two was scrutinized with the same level of intensity as the Zapruder film. Fans were therefore paying close attention when Indiana and Chicago clashed, and Carrington was involved in another physical sequence with Clark. Then came the response following the game, when footage started circulating online and attention turned to the marks on Clark's arm. According to the source material, viewers pointed to scrapes, grabbing, holding, and other physical contact that they believed should have prompted more whistles, turning the incident into a larger debate about how Clark was being officiated. This is the point at which the story transcends a single player, arm, or contentious possession.
You look childish and corny, then going down, shoulder bumping. Like, that's weird, bro. That is weird. And we gotta start calling things for what they is. They're weird. People that do this is weird. Weirdos. That's just the truth. And this is what BLACK privilege looks like. You able to mock somebody and get away with it, and then come down and bump somebody intentionally and get away with it. Can you imagine if Caitlin would have did the same thing to somebody? Oh, y'all would have been having a fit. Y'all would have been like...
Because whether DJ Carrington was physical was not the only question. Like many WNBA defenders, she was. The bigger question was whether officials consistently recognized the boundary between physical basketball and illegal contact. That is a far more awkward conversation, because once fans lose faith in consistency, every whistle becomes proof of someone's theory. When one side sees Clark being grabbed, they ask why the whistle doesn't sound. The other side sees Clark competing in a physical sport, basketball. The issue for anyone thinking this controversy would distract Clark is that she responded in the most frustrating way possible for an opponent. After the physical play, she exploded. Kelsey Mitchell scored 30 points, while Clark finished Indiana's 113-90 victory over Chicago with 37 points, 10 assists, and a career-high 8 three-pointers. With 5 career games of at least 30 points and 10 assists, more than anyone in WNBA history, Clark's performance was more than just another spectacular night. Additionally, Indiana eliminated Chicago from playoff contention with the victory.
All that huffing and puffing just to come out here and get embarrassed. Like, let's just start right here, man. Let's start right here. Why is DiJonai poking the bear? Look at it. Once again, trying to create her moment. Look at her. Why you keep acting like I'm fouling you? Look, and then she's all in the ref face, spitting on him. Look at this. Somebody give her the t-shirt, man. Give her the tech. Give her the tech. Look at this. I'm not doing anything. I'm just guarding up. Okay. You want the smoke? Caitlin gonna give it to you. You want the smoke? She's gonna give it.
Now pause and consider how absurd that sounds. There had been 4 30-point, 10-assist games in the entirety of WNBA history. Caitlin Clark made it 5. It sounds like someone inserted an extra number by mistake, which is the kind of figure that causes people to double-check the screen. Apparently, though, no. The calculator made it out alive. Suddenly, there was a box score next to the image of Clark leaving a very rough game with obvious marks on her arm, as if she had spent the entire evening personally dismantling Chicago's defensive tactics. The disparity made the entire conversation impossible to ignore. The most bizarre aspect of the whole event was the basketball turmoil, and fans could debate whether every scratch was deliberate. Clark seemed to respond better the more difficult the game became. An already simmering issue was further intensified by a particularly heated confrontation between Carrington and Clark. According to reports, Carrington appeared to indicate that Clark had flopped after being called for contact involving Clark. In response, Clark decided not to argue for the remainder of the evening. Instead, she continued attacking, hit a step-back 3 in front of Carrington, and the exchange quickly became one of the most talked-about moments of the game.
DiJonai Carrington had circled on her calendar and wanted the world to see happen tonight. And how did it turn out? Caitlin Clark had 37 points, 10 assists, 8 threes, and we got this lovely reaction. But I want to point out something that happened in the game. Some of the Chicago Sky, including DiJonai Carrington, to me, were looking for a fight this game. And Caitlin, instead of talking about it in the media, just did it with her basketball skills. And this is one of the plays that...
This particular instance was significant because it illustrated the contrast between the drama surrounding Clark and her typical response to it. She can cause the conversation around her to spiral out of control. Clark, on the other hand, typically has another possession to play, which may be the main factor contributing to the explosiveness of these circumstances. Her games blend seamlessly into the regular season schedule. She is not your typical player. Because millions of people are watching her, every altercation involving Clark is magnified, and every contentious moment instantly becomes material for repeated replay. As a result, the marks on her arm became more than just marks. They turned into symbols. In the eyes of Clark's supporters, they symbolized a broader trend of opponents, using undue aggression against the biggest player in the game. While officials do not always offer protection, the strongest argument does not require a conspiracy theory at all, which makes the discussion even more interesting. Referees do not need to scheme in secret in a dark room like villains in a basketball movie to decide who gets to shoot free throws. Inconsistency is all that is required for controversy. Additionally, inconsistency is significantly more damaging, far more common, and far more credible.
DiJonai Carrington fouling Caitlin Clark right here. Look at this, man. So she's reaching in for the ball, fouling Caitlin Clark. We can visibly see she's going in. Caitlin has the ball all the way out here. So clearly you didn't get basketball. You got something else. If you got basketball, the ball would have, left Caitlin Clark's hand. It would have got, deflected or something. It would have went out the way. It would have been a loose ball. But no, Caitlin still has full control of her dribble. What she doesn't have control over is you all in her space, hand checking her, smacking her. And the referee sees it, calls the whistle. And you immediately, instead of reacting, this is how I know you're a victim. You get weaponized by the other victims in the...
Fans notice when one player receives a whistle for hand checking while another player gets away with comparable contact. Players notice when physical play is allowed to increase for 3 quarters before officials suddenly decide to tighten the game. Everyone notices when the standard seems to vary based on the officiating crew, the matchup, or simply what an official sees from one angle. Because of this, the Clark situation matters for reasons beyond Caitlin Clark. The WNBA has become a league where more people monitor, analyze, and freeze-frame possessions, slow-motion replay, and enough confidence to explain the rulebook even when they have never opened it. The league now has a much smaller margin for error, but that does not mean the crowd is always right. Within minutes, any questionable whistle can be replayed from multiple angles. Any controversial possession can be slowed down and examined frame by frame, and any inconsistency can quickly become part of a much larger discussion. So, the dispute between DiJonai Carrington and Caitlin Clark raises an intriguing basketball question. How do you effectively defend a player like Caitlin Clark? She can pull up from a distance that makes defenders wonder whether the scouting report accidentally left out half the basketball court, so getting her too much space is certainly risky.